Good morning. This is for our InDesign 1 under Special Educator category. First question, please introduce yourself.
Okay, good morning. I'm RV Andal. I'm from Batangas and I have been a special education practitioner since 2006, and within that time I got to experience um, interacting with different kids, different conditions, different cases. And aside from that, I'm also teaching. I'm also a member of the faculty for the education and the psychology department.
Next, please give us a background of the children with special needs you are handling.
Well, I started as an early intervention teacher, mostly handling kids with autism, developmental delays. That would include, under the developmental delays, that would include children with Down syndrome, children with cerebral palsy, and children with at risk of or at risk of having intellectual disabilities. And then after that, I had a chance to handle children with hearing impairments, children with ADHD, children with learning disability, and I also had a chance to to tutor a child with hearing impairment. So mostly kids, 7 years old and below. The oldest kid that I had, or a student that I had, was a 40-year-old Down syndrome, who was more of like our setting was like more of a therapy session wherein I had to help that individual.
When you compare, how different do you think is teaching children without special needs compared to the children with special needs? In
Well,
what ways?
they are different in a way that you have to be more sensitive with their specific needs. You have to be aware of the specific ways in which they learn. So it's like at the end of the day, when you think about teaching these kids, it's about really coming up with an individualized set of instruction for per student. So can you imagine if you have 4 students, you would have like 4 lesson plans per day. Although you're talking about the same concept, you might be talking about the same color, same numbers, but you would have to change the way you would approach the lesson, simply because each student would have his own way of learning, his own way of expressing how he learned what you're teaching, and they would also have different behaviors. So it's really more of you, number one, being sensitive about their specific needs, and it's about being scientific in the approach. You just can't grab a book, read an approach, and then apply it to them. No, you have to make sure that the strategy that you're using, the approach that you're using is appropriate for their age, appropriate for their level, appropriate for their, even for the, although I try to go against the condition, but sometimes the condition itself would really give you a lot of infos in terms of how you would teach. So it's really more on the individualized in a way, a special way of teaching them. And what else? But actually, at the end of the day, they would be the same learners that we have. They would have the same motivations. They would have the same interests, the same difficulties, and so on and so forth. So although you have to come up with a special way of teaching them, you don't really have to see them as really an entirely different individual. I mean, they would still feel bored, they would still feel confused, they would still have those personal issues. They would have, it's actually like they're just the same as our, what we call as the typical learners, only that the way I see it, their uniqueness has been more amplified, more, it's more pronounced in a way that this uniqueness affects the way they learn, the way they function. But you would still be a teacher, so you would still have to do what you have to do.
Last question. Tell us your success story on teaching children with special needs.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that question last night, and then I sort of realized that it's not really my success story, but it's actually their success story. Because, well, as a teacher, it's given that they have to learn from you, you have to teach them. But the reason why I concluded that it's their success story is that whenever you get to interact with a kid with special needs, you are in a way transformed. You are eventually you're the one who is being taught. Just like in my case, I was given the case of a child with a Down syndrome, a 40-year-old Down syndrome, who was paralyzed neck down, and Eureka! I was transformed. It was really a life-changing experience because I realized that although he cannot use his hands, he can paint using his mouth, and that made me feel that their capacities are beyond what we see, what we think, and that even though they might look like that they are the ones who need help, but actually at the end of the day you would realize that if you are just reflective, you would see that you were really touched and you were transformed in a way, and that student helped me to have a more positive attitude towards children in general, and that it encouraged me to see that regardless of their situation, regardless of whatever they have in life, they would always have this ability, this capacity, and that it's up to us to help them find it, or it's up to us to give them a chance to show the world that disability is more of like a this kind of ability. And
Thank you so much, sir.
do you like coffee? Wow, talaga may ano pa. Thank you for this. Thank you, Coffee Co, for sponsoring the coffee for the morning. I hope my video helped.
Thank you po.
Ayun.